Mr. Pain. The story seems to be talking about a sort of God betraying the Jews, basically, because everything that's happening. He is not giving the Jewish culture a hand with all the pain that's happening thanks to the German races. And even when they'll just kill themselves even for a piece of bread just because of the suffering. And the people, they really should have been sad that they had some remorse gone to them. In night, everyone, including Ellie, has doubted their own faith in God. Each person is afraid that if they're not needed, they will be incinerated and become smoke in the sky. All of them are in struggle to keep living in their current life. It seems that through the whole story it's going to be Ellie and the other characters in total pain with no remorse going to them. And I think some people are just accepting that they're going to die in this story. Since many at this point believe that Hitler has done more for them and kept more of his promises than God has. And I think that's kind of said when the guy in the infirmary says, I have more faith in Hitler than anyone else. And that's Elie Wiesel, page 81. Nazis at this point have done more for the Jews than God has, so they trust him to keep their promises, to fill them all instead of God just not keeping all of his. Even if there was a skill, we know that Hitler kept all of the promises where God did not keep things to cry for all of them and for what they are doing to survive. Everything in this book knows that you will never cease to hurt the characters and the pain that each of them are feeling. In the end, it just stops with seeing these characters in a huge dark depression. We see him in a huge pain for being separated. We see Ellie in a huge pain for being separated from his house and his family in the beginning, but slowly loses all of them later in the book. The book just shows the suffering that Ellie was going through during 1943. People even say, as a human document, night is almost unbearably painful. That's on the back of the book. For most parts of the story, that's a pretty good comment because it is right about being painful, but not just painful to read, it's just painful to experience, like what you imagine it being. Like, since there is no hope from anyone and no remorse. All it is just depression after depression after depression. So, with no help with them during these uncertain events, it's okay. Though every one of these actions happen because people turn their backs on them. All of them suffer because the Nazis are trying to kill them, everyone. So their religion is the only one left, starting with the Jews. Hitler got what he deserved in the end, yes, but that doesn't mean lots of Jews were burned from that time. Those who survived were left with a deep, dark depression that lingered with them, and Ellie was a part of it.
Two comments. First, and this is a question to class. What then is Zach's interpretation? What does Zach believe God's role is then? If you listen to his interpretation of the novel, what is the role of God in this novel? Musa?
Someone that will fulfill the promises.
What kind of promises?
I guess Hitler said that he will let them go eventually, because that's what said, and he eventually did, and
He let him go.
like not really. He still got free eventually, but
And Hitler was because Hitler.
No, but still, I guess because at the end of the book he said that Hitler killed his promise.
You wait, hold on. He did of killing him. He's gonna let you go. He's gonna let you go in ashes into a big old massive grave, into a place where he kept his promise. So what is the role of God in the novel, William? If you listen to his interpretation, what's the role of God? Paying attention, Marie?
What? To watch as they suffer.
To watch. That's your interpretation. Is God only watches and just listens to them cry, right? I do have a little bit of I have a problem, but you can help me figure it out. You said that. What is that called? You said that Hitler is more reliable, or I'll paraphrase you, is more reliable than God. Please explain that to me, and then I'll give you an interpretation of the book.
Because he kept all his promises. Where
What kind of promises?
Like to kill them all. Where God did not, to protect them.
Tell me one time where God came down to the book and said, I will protect you.
I don't know.
So therefore, how is it that God is less reliable than Hitler? Someone wants to help him out? Think about that. Did God ever say to the Jew? Did Wazelle ever hear God say, Wazelle, it's God. I'm calling you collect. I'm going to make sure you're good. Don't worry. And I will teach you the nene at the same time. No, he didn't say that. Right, Ty?
No.
So, I would argue against your interpretation for that fact. If you say he's more reliable, show me in the text where God or Wazelle even thought that God said something. If you said, how could Zach reinterpret it so that he could still say that Hitler is right, but against God, or like if this is the argument against Hitler versus God, like two massive forces, right, with a lot of control, supposedly. Tell me what could be a better interpretation of this. Think about it really hard. What's a better interpretation? Instead of saying Hitler is more reliable than God, which is kind of a weird thing to say anyway. Huh?
It makes sense though.
How does it make sense?
Because they were putting their hope and trust in God when he was to protect them, and most of them died and they lost their faith. And Hitler promised that they would all go and die, and that they did, most of them. So technically.
So they had faith in God, and that said that God should have kept his promises. Because I have faith in something, you should be able to keep your promise. That person should be able to keep their promise, right? Or that heavenly creature or heavenly idea. Anybody else want to? Go ahead.
Why would they rely on the Germans to kill them? Oh, I rely on you to kill me.
Zach, this is a question to you. Why would you rely on the Germans to kill you?
They relied on God, not the Germans, because they were against the Germans, because the Germans killed them. And they didn't kill all of them, so technically he wasn't fully reliable because he didn't kill all of them. Majority of them got away, so it's pretty much like a false statement.
So he didn't keep his promise because, as technically speaking, they're not all dead.
Well, I'm pretty sure many societies of the Jewish got killed. Tons of society.
Man, you are swimming up the wrong side of the river. Hector, last comment.
When he's saying that he kept that what's it called? I guess what he's saying that Hitler kept most of his promise, so he basically killed a lot instead of because he said God was watching him and crying and everybody was watching. He's saying that Hitler kept he killed most of them and barely little survived.
I would really consider, I think, and you bring up a good point, Zach, and I want you to respond to this. Was God really just silently watching and doing nothing? Was God really doing nothing?
Well, mainly I just thought that because mainly there was just no remorse, like people were showing remorse for the Jewish culture.
Okay. Could God be present because Wazel survived?
Maybe, but I have to say that is kind of weird because he only protected one person instead of.
Is God's purpose then to make sure that no evil happens?
Yes, but he didn't.
That is? So God's supposed to prevent death.
Well, tried. Like,
He tried.
yes.
So God is this person that creates a perfect society.
Yeah.
I think Wazel has a very interesting look on God. And his interpretation, listen to this, Zach. Is his interpretation of God as a cruel person? Or do you think that people are cruel and God just doesn't interfere with those issues? God is not a person that will instantly take his hand and just say, "Shoop, I'm going to just teleport you all away."
I don't think he would just be everywhere and it's just people that are cruel, I guess. But I do think that the evil goes through the characters.
I think you're asking a whole lot from God, and there's a God. I think God is a more. This book should test or question what you believe your God means to you, because Wazel, he still believes in God. Wazel still believes that there is a higher being. To what extent that higher being owes you anything, to do you any favors, I think that could be interpreted. But he's still strong faithfully, and there is a reason for that. Maybe somebody's going to talk about that.